Today we will learn about SAP Fiori automation with Parse My Desktop. So this will be a very hands-on tutorial. So we'll learn how to automate end-to-end the creation of purchase orders on SAP Fiori. So we'll have as input an Excel file which has the data required to create a purchase order. And so the bot that will create will start the browser to log in into SAP Fiori, go to the purchase order creation, fill the required data that comes from Excel, create the purchase order, and then extract the purchase order number generated by SAP to fill it here on the file. So that's basically it. So let's get started with our tutorial. Let's get started by creating a new flow. So here on the top at Power My Desktop, let's click on New Flow and let's define the flow name and let's click on Create. So the first step to automate in order to be able to create a purchase order on SAP Fiori is to open the browser and to log in into SAP Fiori. So to open the browser, let's use the Launch New Microsoft Edge action. However, if you prefer to use other browsers such as Chrome, you can use the Launch New Chrome. So I'll use Microsoft Edge. So I'll drag this Launch New Microsoft Edge action. And so launch mode, let's launch a new instance. Initial URL, let's pass here the URL that we use to authenticate on SAP Fiori. Then for Windows state, let's make sure that the window will be maximized. And that's basically it. So we can now save. And let's just see if it's working well. So I'll just close here the browser and run the flow. And here you can see that the browser was opened on the SAP Fiori login page. Having the browser opened, the next step will be to fill the credentials and click here on the button to perform the login into SAP Fiori. So for that, let's use the populate action on the web page. So this one, populate text field on the web page. And so let's indicate the Y element to target. So let's indicate first here the user input field. So we just have to hover the control button and do a left click. And then here on text, let's indicate the account user that we use to authenticate on SAP Fiori. Then let's use another populate text field on the web page action for the password to populate the password. So first, let's add the Y element related to the password input field. And now let's indicate here the password, the account password. And of course, ideally we'll store this password on a secret place such as Azure Key Vault or CyberArk. But just keep things straightforward, let's put it here. So here I'll just select this option to directly encrypt the text input. So it will be masked here, the password. So let's put here the password and let's save. So let's see how it's working currently. So let's here close the browser and click on run and see if the fields are populated. So we can see user was populated and now also the password. Then the next step is to click on the logon button. So about the language, we don't need to worry about it because we can force the language to be used here on the URL. So as you can see in the hand, we are passing the parameter dash language equals EN. So this will set the language to English. If we put, for example, PT, it will be a different one. So there is no need to set the language on by the bot, by the flow. So we can force it directly from the URL. So to click here on the button, let's use the press button in web page action. So this one. So let's rank it. And now we have to indicate the button. So let's indicate it. And that's basically it. So now let's just test again. So let's run our bot, our flow, and see if the login works properly. So was clicked the logon button, and here we can see that is being done the login. So now it can take some seconds. So let's just wait a bit. And here we can see that login was done successfully into SAP Fiori. So after doing the login into SAP Fiori, the next step will be to navigate to the page from where we can create a purchase order. And so for that, we have at least two ways. One of them is to go here to this search and search by create purchase order. And then click here on this option, create purchase order dash advanced. And so it's from here, from the page that will be loaded, where we can create the purchase order. However, we have a better way. So we could notice that we had to do some clicks and populate our text on the search bar on the input field. So it involves a bit of UI automation, but a better way to avoid all these interactions and also a faster way is to navigate by URL. So we can use this URL that we can see now here on the top after being here on the create purchase order page to navigate to this page. So if we go back just to test, so I just copy here the URL. And now if we try to navigate by the URL, we can see that it works. So we'll use this method to navigate to this page. It's more stable, faster, and involves less UI interactions. Better, it doesn't involve any UI interaction at all. So to navigate to URL here on Power Automate Desktop, we'll use the Go to Web Page action. So here we can see it. So let's drag to our flow. And so here, initially, we have to pass the browser instance, which is automatically selected when we have it only one created, which is the case. We just have this one that is created here on this action. And so the action that we have to perform is to go to a URL. And now here, let's pass the URL and save. And let's see how it's working. So now to avoid to have to run everything from the beginning until the end, let's do the following. So let's disable these actions. So until from the launch new Microsoft Edge to the press button. And now let's use the launch new Microsoft Edge action. And this one will be just used while developing here the solution. And so here on launch mode, let's change to attach to running instance. And so here attach to Microsoft Edge tab. So by the foreground window, so we'll keep only one open. So the one that we are using to automate SAP Fiori. So we can use this option. It's easier to set up. And that's it. So with that, we can just run from where we are and just test this action now. So we don't have to run everything from the beginning. So let's run to see if it's working. And here we can see that it worked. So the navigation to the purchase or the creation page was done successfully. So now that we are here on this page, the next step is to fill here the supplier and the materials, so the items to fill here on this table. And so this data, we will get it from this Excel file. So first we have to read the data from this Excel file, so then we can populate it on the SAP Fiori interface. So to read the Excel file, first let's use the launch new Excel action. So here we can see it. So let's drag it to our flow. And so here, launch Excel, let's open an existing document. And so here we have to indicate the document path. So to keep things simple, let's indicate it directly by clicking on this button. And now selecting here the file. And that's basically it. So now we can save and we get as output the Excel instance of the instance that was started. And with this instance, we'll be able to do actions such as reading the data from the file. So to read the data from the file, let's use the action read from Excel worksheets. So this action that we can see here, let's drag it after the launch Excel. So here basically on retrieve we have to indicate what we want to fetch to get from the file. So we want to get all the data that is present on the file. So for that, let's select here all available values from worksheet. And now, very important here on advanced, let's check this option. First line of range contains column headers, column names, which is the case. So we can see here that here the first line has the column names. So for this first line being interpreted as such, so as the column headers, we have to check this option. Else is considered as a row, and we don't want that. So let's just make sure we check this option. And so as output here, we'll get the Excel data variable, which we can change the name if you want. And so this will be a data table with the data read from the file. So let's save. And now let's see how it's working. So let's just drag the close Excel action after the read. So to make sure Excel instance is closed properly. And so here, before closing Excel, I will set as save. And why? Because in the end of the flow, we will write here the PO number. So we can already here set as save document. So when we do the change, when closing the Excel, the change will be saved. So let's set as save document. So let's see how it's working. So now we can here disable the go to web page. We already saw that it's working. And let's see how it's working. So now let's run here the flow and see if we are able to fetch the data from the file. So launch Excel action was started. And now here on the right side, here we can see the Excel data flow variable. And if we do double click, here we can see the data that was extracted from the file. And also we can see that there is some additional lines that doesn't have any data. However, that's not a problem. We can, on the flow, when we wish to these lines that doesn't have any data, we can just break the loop that will create to fill each item on the SAP Fiori table. So having the data, now the next step is to fill first the supplier, which in our use case will be always on the first row. So to fill the supplier, first, let's enable back the launch new Microsoft Edge action. And to fill the supplier, we use the populate text field on web page action. And so here, let's add a new UI element and let's indicate it. So let's indicate here the input field for the supplier. And now here, the text to write. So this will come from the data table. So first, let's target the data table. And now taking account our use case, which is the supplier being always on the first row, let's take the first row of the data table, which always starts on the index 0. And now to get the specific values, so only the supplier, we can just indicate the column name related to the value that we want to get. So in this case, supplier. So here, let's open brackets again, and then open single quotes. And inside of the single quotes, paste the column name for the supplier. And that's basically it. So let's see how it's working. So I'll just close here the file and then run the flow. So let's here open the page. So now it's running, and here you can see that it worked. So was filling the supplier that came from the Excel file. So after filling the supplier, the next step will be to fill the items table. So the idea is for each item that we have here listed on the Excel file. So for each item that we have here, to fill and to add a new row on the SAP table. So this means that we have to fill the material, pure quantity, and net price. And then for the next line, add a new row and fill again this data with the data that comes from the file. And so this must be dynamic. So if we have 3 rows, we will fill here 3 rows. If we have 5, it will be 5. So it must be dynamic. So first, this means that we want to create a loop for each row of the file. So to iterate over each item's data to fill here on the table. So to create a loop for each row of the data table that has the data from the file, let's use the action for each. And so let's drag it after the populate text field on web page for the supplier. And so value to iterate. So we want to iterate the rows from the Excel data variable. So let's save. And now here inside is where we will do the actions to populate each cell of each row. So per each item that we have here to insert, we will execute a loop inside of the for each. And on this loop, we will populate the material, bill quantity, and net price. So that's the goal. So let's use the populate text field on web page action to populate the material, bill quantity, and net price on the SAP Fiori table. So first we have to indicate the Y element. So let's indicate it. So here the material. And here the text to fill in. So it will be what comes on the current item. So here on the loop, current item represents the row being iterated from the data table. So let's take it. And then we have to indicate what we want to get from the row. So we want to get the material. And so for that, we pass brackets, single quotes. And inside of the single quotes, indicate the column name related to the material values. So let's get it and paste here. And that's basically it. So let's see how it's working. So I'll just close here the file, refresh the page, the browser, and run the flow. So the supplier was filled. Let's see if the material will be also. And so we got here an error. So the field for the material was not found. So here you can see the error. So let's just take a look. So if we see here, we can see, well, the element ID. So the iframe ID being targeted. And we can see that it's valid. So if we do here a search, we can see that it exists, this iframe with this ID, and also that exists the span with the ID that we can see here. So if we take a look here, so let's just move here, we can see the span that we are targeting. So the selector seems good. So let's try instead here on the action to disable the populate text using physical keystrokes and use instead emulate typing. So let's just refresh the page and run the flow again. And here we can see that now it's working. So by switching the physical keystrokes by emulate typing, we are able to solve that issue. So let's use the same approach for the other 2 cells. So for the bill quantity and net price. So let's use the populate text field on web page. Let's add a new Y element. Let's indicate now the PO quantity. So let's indicate. And so here, current item, and then open brackets, single quotes, and paste inside the column name for the PO quantity. So let's do it. Now let's drag another one for the net price. So let's indicate and let's So here use the current item. And now, well, let's pass the column name for the net price. So here is it. So I'll just close out the file and pass the net price. And now, very important, let's disable the physical keystrokes and also do the same for the other one. So let's do it. Let's save, and I'll just refresh, reset here the page state and run the flow. So it's just taking some time to save the flow. So let's run it and see how it's working. And the supplier was filled, the material, PO quantity, and net price. However, now we can see that the data is being overwritten because we are always starting the same cells. So always the fields of the first SAP table row. And so this is the part where we have to create something that make it dynamic. So in such a way that always when we create a new row, we'll jump to the next empty row. So that's what we want to achieve. Also, we could notice that after some iterations, we start to delete the data on the fields because we are iterating empty rows without data. So we'll have also a check here in the beginning. For example, if the material field on the row comes empty, we just break the loop because we can notice here that it's reading some empty lines from Excel.
Are you ready to master SAP automation with platforms like UiPath, Power Automate, Automation Anywhere, Blue Prism, and even Python? In my upcoming courses, you'll get hands-on experience and real SAP access so you can practice everything you learn. Free access to SAP is impossible to get as far as I'm aware, but I'll got you covered on my courses. And I'm about to launch these SAP automation courses anytime soon. Subscribe via the link below in the description or in the comments to stay tuned and be the first to know when these courses go live.
So let's tackle first that part. So let's have basically an if condition on the beginning. And to simplify, let's say if the current item at the material column is empty. So if this is true, let's break the loop. So for that, we can use the action exit loop. And so let's drag here inside. So when this is true, when the current item has the material column, so the row has the material empty, so we can finish the loop. Then to create here the dynamic thing of always moving to the next empty row, what we can do. So we can see here basically on the ID. So I'll just open here the selector of one of these elements. So here for the metro, here on ID, there is a thing which is here. Basically, we are indicating the row index. So the index of the row to target and the column index. So just verify if we take this ID and if we go here, open the dev tools. So if with dev 12, and so like this, we can see that we are targeting here the material on the first row. However, if we change here the 1 to 2, we can see now that basically, let's just here, we are targeting the second. And now if we change to 3, we are targeting the third row, 4 for the fourth, 5 for. So we can see that if we find a way to change here dynamically on the selector this number, we can control where the action will fill on the table. So to tackle this, it's quite straightforward. So we can use a variable that will be an integer variable. So let's use the set variable action. And so let's use it before the loop. And so let's name it as SAP table row. And so we'll start by 1 because we can see that the first row here has the number 1. So let's start by 1. And so this means that on the first loop, we will target the first row. And so to make sure we are basically using what we are doing here on the selector, let's edit it. And so here, let's replace, so let's just enable text editor. And here replace the 1 by the value that comes from the variable that we have created, like this. And so let's do the same for the others. So let's edit, text editor. Let's remove here the 1 and replace by what comes from the variable. Let's save. And now for the other also, let's enable text editor, remove here the article, the value, and replace by the 1 for the variable that will be dynamic. And so as is currently, if we run, we will always target the first row as before. However, now we will change that with the increment action. So in the end, the increase, sorry. So in the end, we will increase the value of this variable by 1. So after filling the first time the data on the first row of the table, we'll increase the value of the variable by 1. And this means that when we go to the second iteration, we will target the second row because the value of this variable will be 2, meaning we'll target, so here, the second row. So let's see if it's working as I'm telling, basically. So let's just refresh here the browser and run the flow. And let's see if it works well. So the supplier will be filled. So material, pure quantity, net price. And now here we can see it's working well. So we are filling, so we have filled the 2 rows of the SAP table. And because now there is no more rows to process, no more rows with data, the flow ended execution. So now if we just want to try if we have other row here on the file, so just to test, let's save and let's just reset the page and run again. We will see that we have 3 rows filled with the data exactly as is on the Excel file. So let's just wait. And here you can see that it worked well. So it added all the rows on the file. So let's just delete the one that I added recently. So this one, it's duplicated. Let's save. So after filling the SAP Fiori table, we'll create the purchase order by clicking here on create. So for that, so after this loop, we'll use the press button action. So this one on web page. And so let's add the Y element and indicate here the create button. And so let's save. And now let's see what appears next. So I'll just delete here the data that is on this row because it's duplicated. And let's just simulate the action to see what appears next. So it might appear this pop-up. So let's handle it. So to check if the pop-up appears, let's use if web page contains action after the click. And so if it contains the element, and now let's add the Y element to check. So let's check, for example, these as in documents label. And so if it appears this pop-up, we have to click here on the yes button. So for that, let's use the press. And let's use the press button on the web page. And so let's add now a new UI element and indicate here the yes. And let's save. So I'll just cancel and run again from the filling the supplier to see if it's working well. So let's just run here and see if it's working properly. So the button was clicked and now the yes. So here we can see that we have additional pop-up that might appear. So let's take it. So let's use another if web page contains action to check if this additional pop-up appears or not. So let's here indicate to check if appears this text, this element. And so if it appears, we'll use a press button on web page action and indicate here the old button. So click on this button. And so let's give it a try again. So I'll just refresh the page and run the bot. And it seems it's working well. So the purchase order seems that will be created. And here you can see that the purchase order was created. So after creating it, our goal will be to read here the status bar so we can extract the purchase order number and to store it then on the file. So to read here this SAP status bar, let's use the action get details of web page. So here on this one, so get details of element on web page. So this action that we can see here. And so let's indicate the status bar. So like this. So indicate here where appears the text. And so what we want to extract from the element, from the status bar, is the text. So that's what we want. And so here, let's just change the variable name to SCP or to status bar text and save. And so let's see. So I'll just run again to check if we are able to retrieve the text. And now it looks like after extracting. So let's see if we are able to extract it. So it was created a purchase order. And here you can see on the variable status bar text here on flow variables, the text that was extracted from the status bar. So now that we have the text, we can manipulate the text string to only extract the purchase order number. So we can see that it has a clear pattern. So it starts by this message, and then in the end, it contains a number with multiple digits. So to extract, we can simply use a regular expression, a regex, to extract the number from the text. So for that, we use the parse text action. And so text to parse will be the one that is on the status bar text variable. And now text to find, so to use regular expressions, let's enable first this option. And now the regular expression that we use to match the number, the purchase order number, will be /d plus. What this means? This means that we want to match a digit with one or more numbers, one or more digits. And that's our case. So with this, we should be able to match the purchase order number without problems. And now here, variables produced, position doesn't matter. What matters to us is the match. So here, I'll just change match to purchase order number. Let's save and see if we are able to extract only the purchase order number. So let's run the flow. So the flow and the execution. And here you can see, so the text that was extracted, so the purchase order number. And so here we can see on this variable that we are able to really only extract, to parse the purchase order number from the status bar text. So now that we have basically the purchase order number, we can write it to the file. So for that, we can use the write action for Excel. So the write to Excel worksheet. And so to keep things simple, let's just write on a single cell. So we can write, for example, the first one here, the E2. So for that, let's use write mode on specify a cell on the column E, row number 2, and the value to write will be the one that is stored on purchase order number variable. And let's save. And now before running, let's move the close Excel to the end. So after we change here, basically the cell number, well, the cell value, we close Excel and save the changes. And in last but not least, let's close the browser. So let's have here the close for the browser. So we want to close web browser, so we can use this action. And so here we just have to pass the browser instance to be closed. And now we can just enable to run everything from the beginning. Let's enable these actions. Let's remove this one. We don't need it anymore. Let's enable the go to web page. And let's see how it's working. So let's just close the file, do the sign out, and close, the browser and run the flow. So first, login will be done. And it's working. So now navigate the purchase order creation page. It takes some time to load. And now we read the file and fill the supplier and fill the SAP Fiori table. Now will be created the purchase order. And the flow ended successfully. So was closed also the browser. And now if we take a look to the file, here we can see that was saved the purchase order number extracted from SAP Fiori. And that's it for this tutorial. So we have learned how to automate end-to-end the creation of purchase orders on SAP Fiori. And if you like this tutorial, please give a thumbs up and now subscribe to the channel and enable notifications bell so you don't miss any SAP automation tutorials released here on the channel.